Do you ever catch yourself micromanaging your husband's day or nagging him to do something like a mother would? You may be acting like his mother and not his wife. Today in this video, we're going to talk about how you can stop acting like your husband's mother and start thriving as his partner and wife instead. Hi, my name is Paula. If you're new here, I've been married for 13 years and we have 3 lovely children. And it's my goal to help wives to become the best they can be in their marriage, to grow their marriages so they can be fulfilled. I was once that miserable, unhappy wife. And using biblical principles and listening and applying the word of God helped me change my whole marriage for the better. So I'm here to help you do the same. So stick around if you think you may be more of a mother to your husband than the wife that he needs you to be. So I don't want you to feel bad because it happens to a lot of us more than you think. We are naturally mothered. The reason why we want to change that is because he's never going to fulfill his full potential if you're his mother, and you're always going to be exhausted. You're always going to be in that leadership authority role, and that is not the way God intended it. We want him to lead. We want him to be making the decisions and calling the shots. So let's fix that. You know, sometimes we just want the best for our husbands. And so we figure that if we know better, we're going to try to help him along, right? You're going to tell him what to do, how to do it, all that. The thing is, if you treat him like a child, it's going to affect the intimacy and that emotional connection. You're not going to feel like his wife. You're not going to have that physical attraction that you need to have in order for your relationship to grow and thrive. So we're going to talk about how to spot this behavior and what we can do differently to create a healthy, biblical, godly partnership and marriage moving forward. So we're going to spot about 4 issues today, and then we're going to talk about why it's an issue and how we're going to fix it. So make sure you stay until the end, because if you're doing these things, it may be detrimental to your relationship. So let's go. One way that we treat our husbands like children is by micromanaging their every task. So from chores in the house to the decisions they make at work. Yes, sometimes our spouses will come home and they'll tell us what's going on at work, and we proceed to tell them how to handle it. The issue with this is that it takes away a sense of leadership and competence. If he never feels like he can do anything right, he will be discouraged from wanting to do anything at all. He's going to feel like you don't trust him to do anything and you don't think he's capable of doing things. So instead of micromanaging your man, I want you to just trust him. Give him room to make mistakes. Give him room to lead. Give him room to have more responsibilities. The more responsibilities and the more he does things his own way, the better he's going to feel about himself. I know it's going to be hard because for some reason we tend to want to control everything and it drives us crazy. I've been there, so I know. But it is very, very important that your man feels like a man and not like a boy. He's going to act like a boy. And we like to talk about how they're childish, they're man children, they're man child, they're boys, blah, blah, blah. But you may be perpetuating that narrative, okay? So instead of keeping him in that place, because you may be right, but you can help him, you can, foster that growth, that change that needs to happen in men. They need to feel like they're competent. They need to feel like they're worthy, like they're valuable, that they're capable, that you think they're capable, that you trust that they have the ability to do and make decisions on their own. And for a biblical reference, I want you to go to Proverbs 31, verse 11, where it says, her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. So give him space to grow and lead, trusting that God will guide him. So number 2 is nagging him about everyday responsibility. Constantly reminding him to do chores and to do things around the house is gonna make him feel like you're his mother, always scolding him. The nagging gives him the feeling that he's always failing, that he's not good at anything. And so he wants to do nothing. There's this term called weaponized incompetence. And I think it's a really misused term, only because what I feel is happening is that because we continually nag and criticize and tear down our husbands when they do something and we think it's not up to our standards, then they just don't want to do it. They have no inclination to do anything because no matter how good they think they've done, it always ends up the same. You're never satisfied. You never feel like it's good enough. And so they don't want to put out that effort. The opposite is true. If you constantly praise him, no matter how mediocre you think it is, any type of praise is going to encourage more of that behavior and better behavior, because they want more of the praise, to hear more positive things. Nobody wants to hear all the time how bad they're feeling, how bad they're doing, how horrible they are at everything. So just keep that in mind and think about it. If you were in his shoes and he constantly complained about everything, how bad your food is, it's never good enough, it never tastes good, you could always do better, you're always missing something, it's never seasoned right, you'd be seriously annoyed and you probably wouldn't stay in a situation like that. So don't do that to him. So instead of nagging him about chores, just make sure you guys are communicating like adults. Everybody knows their roles, and just leave it. Like, he knows what he's supposed to do. You know what you're supposed to do. You do your chores, leave him to do his. Do not remind him. Don't, just leave it. Don't do it for him. Very importantly, don't do it for him. If he's supposed to take out the trash and he forgets to take out the trash, leave the trash. Let it get stinky. You can gently remind him if you want. You could say, babe, did you remember that today is trash day? And that's it. We don't want the nagging where you never remember to take out the trash. Every single time you forget to take out the trash and I have to take out the trash and it gets into a big thing. No, a simple reminder will work. But I would recommend not saying anything. If you're in a really good place, then you could do the gentle reminder, but under no circumstances are you going to nag him about not doing something or forgetting to do something. He knows his responsibilities. You know yours. Do yours, let him do his. So for a biblical reference for this one, we're going to Ephesians 4 verse 2, where we're called to be humble, patient, bearing with one another in love. Okay? Everything we do is in love. Nagging is not, it's not it. I'm sorry, girl. A loving conversation is far more effective than the nagging. You're just going to drive him away. A third thing that we tend to do that is more like a mother than a wife is being overprotective and shielding him from life's challenges. So sometimes we tend to try to shield our husbands from difficult things or difficult challenges by making decisions for him or trying to prevent him from making a mistake. But mistakes teach wisdom. The more you fail, the more you try, the better you become at something. So if you never give him that opportunity to fail, to make his own mistakes, to lead, because a big thing that I hear wives saying is that they don't think their husband is capable of leading. He's not a leader. How is he going to be a good leader if you never let him lead? He needs practice. He needs the opportunities to figure stuff out. That's how you develop yourself as a leader, not just as a husband, but in general. You're going to fail. And the more times you fail, the better you get at it. It's the more experiences you have, the more you know what to expect. So you can show someone else. You can tell them what's coming. You can tell them what happens in a certain situation because you've done it all. So let your husband fail. Let him figure things out. We have this thing where we feel like it's your way or the highway. There's so many different ways you can skin a cat. Yes, your way may be right, but it may not be the only right way. So let him figure it out. Even if you're right and you're telling him something, let him go figure out that you were right all along. That helps him to develop his trust for you, his trust for your judgment, so that when he's coming to you for advice and it's not that competition, it's not that tug of war. He really knows that wifey has wisdom, wifey is smart. Let me go sit down and talk to wifey. And he knows that it's not going to be a war. It's a conversation, and you're going to help him and you're going to push him and you're going to challenge him. But what we don't want to do is to coddle him. A lot of times we don't talk to our spouses about certain things because we don't want them to feel uncomfortable. We don't want them to feel unloved or feel a certain way. But they need those conversations or else they cannot grow. The tough conversations. Talk about the money, talk about the sex, talk about the emotional connections, talk about the trauma, talk about everything that affects you. Help him to understand you and your point of views and where you're coming from and why you feel the way you feel. For instance, me and my husband, there's this one thing, he just never understood my point of view. And I don't think I maybe thought that I told him why, but he came down and he was like, there's something I want to talk to you about. And we started discussing. And I just said to him, this thing happened to me as a child. And I don't want my children to experience that. And this is why I avoid doing this certain thing, because I don't want my children to ever have to experience that. It's kind of a trauma that I had to deal with. And he was like, oh, wow, that makes so much sense. I get it. I totally get it. If I had known that before, it wouldn't even be an issue. And so it's just having those straight up conversations, those candid conversations, letting them know why you think what you think, why you believe what you believe. Sometimes they really will understand. They really will appreciate your vulnerability. People like when you're able to open up to them. So do that for your husband. Do not coddle him and feel like he's not equipped to deal with your emotions or to deal with your trauma or to deal with whatever you're going through. Be candid, be open. Just let him make his mistakes. Let him learn on his own. I want you to consider James 1:2-4, which reminds us that trials produce perseverance and maturity. So your husband needs room to grow through life's challenges. Don't rob him of that. So the number 4 issue is making decisions for him. And I know I spoke about this a little bit, but we're just going to talk about it, flesh it out a little bit more. So a common mistake, as I said before, is just making decisions for him. All the decisions. What he eats, what he wears, who he hangs out with, and where he hangs out. So again, this can make him feel like you don't think he's capable of making his own decisions. And that shifts the balance of the relationship from being partner to partner to parent to child. No grown man needs his woman making every decision for him. If anything, he should be making all the decisions for you. which we know won't happen. But that would be a better balance since he's the leader of the marriage. But as a woman, as a wife, we should never be in a position where we're making every single decision for our husbands. Unless he says he wants that. I guess some men may want that. I can't picture a scenario where I've ever encountered that, but I'm never going to say never. If he asks you, because leadership doesn't mean it's dominating. It just means he's making decisions. So if he makes the decision that he wants you to make all the decisions, then I guess that works. So instead of making all the decisions for him, I want you to ask for his input in everything. Yes, in everything. In what you wear, how you do your hair, what you're gonna eat, where you're gonna go for vacation, how much to spend for the kids' birthday parties, how much to spend when you go shopping. He needs an input in everything. It really builds him up and builds up his confidence. Not that he's not confident, but knowing that you're a woman, knowing that your wife trusts your judgment, wants your input, craves your leadership, there's nothing more attractive to a man than knowing that his wife trusts his judgment, trusts him, and wants him to lead, wants him to be the head. Sexy, sexy. So Genesis 2:24 tells us that the man leaves his mother and father to cling to his wife. So they become one. It becomes a partnership. So allow him to lead, allow him to grow, and trust his judgment, trust his leadership, and trust him to make those decisions for himself. If you think you may be acting like more of a mother than a wife, I want you to start implementing these 4 things today. Start now, okay? As I said before, you're not alone. We've probably all been there or done this to a certain extent, especially if you're a mother. It's just these natural instincts in us. But we are going to start being more feminine. The more feminine you are, the easier it is to just let go off of that control and just let your husband walk more in his masculine and make those decisions.